WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not want people to know that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. I can tell you, from the very day that they decided to let that go public, everything has dropped off a cliff.
The WNBA has officially hit peak comedy, right? Ratings are tanking, ticket sales are collapsing, and suddenly the Indiana Fever are being asked, no, let's just say forced, to play in Atlanta, all because Caitlin Clark is out. The league seriously thought fans wouldn't notice this, but newsflash, they did. What we're seeing is a full-blown circus unraveling in real time. But here's a real question for you. Do you think the WNBA could even survive a full season without Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because we're not going to sugarcoat this. The WNBA is desperate. The numbers tell the whole story. The very moment news broke about Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury, interest just fell off a cliff. Not a gentle slope, not a hill, but a straight-up cliff. One week you had packed arenas, ESPN gloating about record-breaking viewership, and fans trekking across states just to catch an Indiana game. The next week, empty seats, half-hearted applause, and TV ratings that honestly look more like late-night reruns than anything close to professional sport.
People were trying to hang on to the possibility this whole time. Look, so many people stayed engaged with the team because they thought the cavalry was coming. She's coming back. We're going to have a fighting chance to win the WNBA championship. The Indiana Fever and the WNBA, they knew this.
And get this, the league actually thinks moving Indiana's games to Atlanta is somehow going to fix this massive problem. Seriously? Atlanta? Because apparently the solution to losing your biggest star is what? Changing the venue? That's not problem solving. That's straight up panic dialing. Let's rewind for a second. When Clark was healthy, the WNBA had its golden ticket. ESPN had her plastered everywhere. Every game she played and pulled numbers the league hadn't seen in decades. We're talking millions of viewers, social media absolutely buzzing, highlight clips going totally viral. The Fever weren't just some other team, they were the team. Every single road game felt like a home game because fans were showing up for her. But here's the real kicker. The WNBA and the Fever front office knew she wasn't coming back. They sat on that information, dangling false hope in front of fans, letting people think she might actually return for a playoff push. Why? Because they understood the moment that truth came out, the bubble would burst. And guess what? It absolutely burst. Just look at Baltimore. Nearly 3,000 ticket-holding fans just didn't show up. Think about that for a second. They'd already paid, already had their seats, and still said, nah, not worth it. That's not just disinterest, that's betrayal. Fans thought they were signing up for Caitlin Clark, and instead they got WNBA Lite with no refund policy in sight.
People felt like they were going to games thinking this team would have Caitlin Clark coming back to make a championship run. I mean, the perfect example, the game in Baltimore the other day with the Mystics. Nearly 3,000 fans decided not to show up, and they paid for the ticket.
And now we've got ESPN out here pretending like everything is perfectly fine. They're trotting out these numbers about year-over-year growth and highest average viewership in decades. Yeah, but let's actually tell the full truth, okay? Those big numbers, Clark was playing those massive spikes, Clark was the headliner. Those viral highlights, Clark was the one hitting logo threes and dropping dimes. Without her, you're left with a 90,000 viewer snooze fest between teams nobody outside their own zip code truly cares about. I mean, let's put this into perspective for a second. One of the league's hyped matchups recently drew less than 100,000 viewers. That's like YouTube influencer territory. Heck, some high school state championship games pull in better numbers than them, and yet the league wants to parade around as if the sky isn't falling. Spoiler alert, the sky is falling.
But before Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury, WNBA tickets were averaging $89. The moment she went down, price crashed nearly 30%, plummeting to $62 a seat. That's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but obviously the biggest reason is Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark literally being out, and again, she's only on one team, but a very big chunk of the total attendance in WNBA is from the Indiana Fever.
This whole situation is Kathy Engelbert's absolute worst nightmare. She bet the entire house on the idea that the WNBA could expand way beyond just one player. Except, now it's painfully clear that one player is the league. Without Clark, the WNBA isn't trending, it's not buzzing, it's not even a casual conversation topic. And here comes the most laughable part of it all, moving Indiana Fever games to Atlanta. Oh yes, because nothing screams, we believe in the strength of our league. It quite like uprooting a team just to desperately squeeze out a few extra ticket sales in a different market. Do they genuinely think Atlanta fans are just magically going to care about Indiana without Clark? Are they handing out free hot dogs with every single seat? The math here just doesn't add up. And by the way, this is nothing new. We've totally seen this before. Remember when the NBA tried propping up certain markets for TV deals, completely regardless of whether fans actually cared? It backfired spectacularly then. And guess what? It's backfiring now. You simply cannot fake demand. Fans either care or they don't. And right now, without Caitlin Clark, they just don't.
Moving arenas. So yeah, a lot of teams, whether it be the Lynx opening the Upper Bowl, whether it be the Wings, the Dream, the Sky, all of these teams moving games. All of these teams are moving games for the Indiana Fever, regardless of who it is. They all have to sell those seats. And a lot of people don't want to go, and it's super cheap. Like, it's a lot easier to fill a 10,000 seat arena without Caitlin Clark than to fill 20,000. So you're going to have to find a way to do it anyway, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing, trying to sell tickets. The seats for the playoffs, I would say the Indiana Fever playoff seats would have been, honestly, like nearly $1,000 in. I actually think had Caitlin Clark been playing, it would be nearly $1,000 into this game.
Okay, let's quickly hit some numbers again, because they're wild. Before her injury was even announced, that Fever vs. Sky game with Clark and Angel Reese absolutely crushed it, pulling in 2.7 million viewers. To put that in perspective, that's more than some MLB games in prime time. Then, after her injury, the Fever vs. Mystics game limped by with only 270,000 viewers. Fever vs. Lynx barely even crossed 1 million, and the so-called big markets, like New York and Vegas, they're not moving the needle either. A'ja Wilson can absolutely ball, no question about it, but if the casual fan doesn't know or care, that's just the harsh reality they're facing. And you know who understands this better than anyone? The players themselves. Don't think they haven't noticed the empty arenas, the sudden silence online, or the fact that ESPN isn't blasting their highlights the same way anymore. Angel Reese is out here sulking, half playing, half checking out. Teams are throwing shade, but deep down, they all know their paychecks look bigger because Clark exists. Without her, those checks shrink. Here's the bottom line. The WNBA tied its entire relevance to one player, and now that player is sidelined, hence the panic move. Shift the Fever to Atlanta, because maybe, just maybe, a new market will distract from the brutal fact that fans aren't tuning in. It's nothing but smoke and mirrors, and frankly, it's not fooling anyone. You've got half-empty arenas, and players aren't stupid. They can feel that energy shift. When Clark was on the court, every possession felt massive. Every foul call got boos or cheers like it was a playoff game. Now, you can literally hear sneakers squeak louder than the crowd. That's not atmosphere, that's awkward silence. Take Angel Reese, for example. 1 week, she's the media darling, the next face of the league, and the very next week, she's either protesting her minutes, sitting out for tightness, or rumored to be unhappy with her team. And the wildest part, hardly anyone outside the die-hard WNBA Twitter circle even cared, because here's the uncomfortable truth. Fans tuned in for Clark, not for the rest of the soap opera. The league can hype whoever they want, but you simply cannot force people to care. A'ja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Alyssa Thomas, Nafisa Collier. These are elite players, no doubt about it, but when their games air without Clark in the picture, the ratings say it all. You're talking about 30,000 viewers, maybe 200,000 if ESPN really begs hard enough. And that's supposed to be the future of women's basketball. If so, the future looks incredibly bleak. Let's circle back to this Atlanta stunt. What does forcing the Fever to play there actually accomplish? Atlanta isn't exactly known for consistently filling arenas for WNBA games. Their own team has struggled for years to get traction. So now, the league seriously thinks Indiana's starless roster is going to magically draw crowds in a city that barely supports its own squad. That's not strategy. That's pure smoke and mirrors. You want to know the real reason? Optic. The WNBA doesn't want cameras panning across rows of empty seats in Indiana because empty seats tell a truth. Ratings can't spin. If you put the Fever in Atlanta, maybe you can shuffle some tickets to corporate sponsors. Maybe you can half the arena, and suddenly the broadcast doesn't look like a funeral. It's not about the fans, it's about the optic. This wouldn't even sting so much if the WNBA hadn't spent all summer chest thumping about their massive growth. ESPN was plastering graphics about record averages, about how Caitlin Clark lifted all boats except those boats had holes. The second she went down, the water rushed in, and now they're bailing with Dixie cups. And fans aren't dumb, they see right through it. You can only sell an illusion for so long before reality comes back to slap you in the face. That Baltimore no-show with 3,000 absent ticket holders, that's fans voting with their feet. People are done being tricked into thinking there's excitement where there isn't any. Even the narrative about Clark being just one player is completely collapsing. Remember when critics claimed the WNBA was about more than just that, the culture and legacy players mattered more? Ratings have absolutely blown that theory to pieces, because the second she's out, the entire league looks invisible. Let's be blunt, the WNBA has a dependency problem. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player, she's the oxygen tank. You pull her out and the whole room goes quiet. Moving Indiana games to Atlanta won't change that. It's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Sure, the chairs look different, but the ship is still sinking. What's truly wild is how incredibly short-sighted this all is. Instead of building sustainable excitement around multiple stars, the league has effectively doubled down on Clark as the lifeline while still pretending they did it. That's exactly how you end up here. A league pretending to celebrate all-time high ratings while quietly panicking about half-empty arenas and fans tuning out. And the hypocrisy. Don't even get me started. You've got media outlets lecturing fans that they should care about women's basketball regardless of Clark. That argument has been tried before. Remember the Support Women's Sports Because It's the Right Thing campaign. Guilt doesn't sell tickets, and guilt definitely doesn't pull in TV numbers. People want entertainment, not lectures. Clark brought that. Without her, the product just looks flat. Let's zoom out a bit. Sports leagues rise and fall on stars. That's not new. The NBA had Jordan, then LeBron, then Curry. The NFL has Brady, Mahomes. MLB had Bonds, Jeter. Stars are the absolute currency. But here's the crucial difference. Those leagues learned how to market multiple stars at once. When Jordan left, the NBA had Shaq, Kobe, Iverson ready to carry the torch. When Brady slowed down, Mahomes took over. The WNBA, though, they put all their chips on Clark without ever admitting it. And now, instead of a next man up situation, it's an empty stage. The other stars just aren't pulling weight in terms of mainstream attention. That's not a knock on their skills, it's just reality. So, here's the million-dollar question. What happens next season if Clark isn't 100% right away? Do ratings tank again? Do they scramble to move even more games into neutral venues? Or do they finally admit that without her, they're running purely on fumes? Look, the WNBA had a golden chance. They had a wave of attention, viral moments, ESPN segments, and record-breaking crowds. And instead of laying the foundation for long-term stability, they basically milked Clark dry. Now the second she's unavailable, they're completely exposed. That's not growth. That's dependency. And fans, they are not sticking around out of pity. If your product only matters when one person is involved, then maybe it's time to admit what it truly is, a niche league propped up by one star. That's fine if you embrace it, but pretending otherwise is just insulting. This Atlanta experiment will be the ultimate proof. If those games flop in attendance and ratings, the league will have absolutely nowhere to hide. If they somehow scrape together a sellout, it'll be through freebies and corporate handouts, not genuine demand. Either way, the desperation is showing, and honestly, the sarcasm just writes itself. The Women's National Basketball Association has turned into the Clark National Basketball Association, They can deny it all they want, but the receipts simply do not lie. Without her, ratings plummet, arenas empty, and ESPN is left recycling old highlights just to desperately keep fans engaged. So yeah, the WNBA can shuffle teams around, spin numbers, and push all the PR campaigns they want. But at the end of the day, the truth is loud and clear. Caitlin Clark is the sun, and without her, this league is absolutely in the dark. The WNBA is scrambling, moving Indiana Fever games to Atlanta, and hoping nobody notices the ratings collapse without Caitlin Clark. Spoiler alert, we definitely noticed. The panic is real, and the league looks completely lost without its star.